You could have done anything. You could have gotten a family business. You could have invested in these startups that you met in Silicon Valley. You had easy access to them. Someone probably would have hired you as an executive at some point. Why did you choose to do what you're doing? Give us the why.
It goes back to what makes you happy. Being impactful, helping my community, creating this community. This is actually what makes me happy. So it's pretty selfish. I want to be happy.
Welcome to Yasmin Lukatz. How are you, Yasmin?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Okay, before we even get started, I normally ask you to introduce yourself quickly and tell us your core value.
Wow. I think integrity is one of them. I think it's very important for me when I choose people I want to work with, authenticity too. And that's very important. And I love the state of Israel. I think that's becoming like, when I think of values, I think about general things, but I think the love for this place is becoming stronger and stronger and is part of my core values.
Wow. Actually, want to dig into that a bunch in this conversation, but maybe I'm just going to jump right to it. So for our audience who doesn't know who you are, Yasmin Lukatz has lived between Israel and Silicon Valley over the last 20 years. I have that about right?
18 years, and I came back 2 years ago.
And she came back to Israel 2 years ago. She was the founder and executive director of ICON, which is the Israel Collaboration Network. She is the founder and president of Code for Israel. And non-tech people may know her from the Israeli version of Shark Tank.
And Dancing with the Stars.
I was going to say, and Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
So she is multi-talented, an investor, runs multiple not-for-profit networking activities. Everybody in Silicon Valley knows Yasmin. We'll come to that
my daughter's doing a reality show now. She's doing Pekin Express. And now I'm starting to be known as Shira's mother, and I love that.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I don't know what the reality show
it's like
Pekin Express
it's like
is.
The Amazing Grace.
I don't even know what that is.
They don't get, it's long. They don't get, and they have their racing. They do different things, and they don't have any money in a foreign country.
Oh, which country is she going to?
So I think they started Cambodia, and they're going to end in Thailand. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. So she has to steal people's money on the way as part of the reality show?
She's got to stay in people's house. She's got to ask for food. She's got to do, tasks and compete with the other couples.
I'm going to ask you, how do you feel as a mother that your daughter is going to run around in Cambodia to wherever?
So she's already done that, and she came back home safely.
Okay.
I think as parent, I'm so biased. I'm her biggest fan. Whatever she does, I'm going to be happy about. So I don't know. You know that too. I think if I were to introduce myself, I always start. I'm saying I'm a mother of four. I think that my kids are biggest challenge and biggest achievement, most challenging and most rewarding thing of my life. So I'm very proud, and I'm excited to be Shira's mother, to be known as Shira's mother now.
Why do you think she chose a reality show where she has to run around skimping on $1 a day or less?
I think you have to watch the show, or you have to invite her. So she talks about it.
Okay, so since you mentioned you came back to Israel 2 years ago, I'll actually start at the end. Did anything change in you on October 7th or post-October 7th?
I think things that were always there got like this extra sense of urgency. So when we spoke before, I told you I heard in my early 40s Professor Jennifer Acker from Stanford talk about and her research on happiness and what is happiness. And she spoke about how when you're a baby, you're happy when your diaper is dry and you're being fed and held. And in your 20s, speaking of my daughter, it's the adrenaline and the rush that makes you happy. And in your 40s, it's community and impact. That's research. And when I heard her speak, I was like, now I get it. Now I know why I do ICON, later on doing Code, why I enjoy connecting people and creating opportunities for other people so much. Combined it with my love for Israel, I enjoy and I want to do it here.
So you started ICON in Silicon Valley. Tell everyone what ICON is.
So ICON is a not-for-profit. Our mission is to connect between the Israeli and the Silicon Valley tech ecosystems. We're a community of Israeli tech entrepreneurs, U.S.-based venture capital investors, and corporate executives in the U.S. and companies that could be acquire, partner, or a customer of a startup. And through a series of programs, we create opportunities for community members to do things together. We just bring the right people in the room, bring the right content. We kind of develop the specialty, put some fairy dust on top, and then they make the magic happen. We just create the opportunity for the magic to happen.
Did you take equity for that in ICON?
So ICON is a nonprofit. We actually belong to everyone, I guess. And it's very interesting because it's a nonprofit with a business model, but all the profits actually that we make go to fund the nonprofit activity.
And what's the business model?
So we charge for sponsorships. We have some philanthropic dollars that are coming in, but most of the revenues are from sponsorships and from a small fund we created that invests in some of the companies, and all of the profits from the general partner profits go back to the nonprofit.
And have you had any exits?
We had one exit, which has started in 2019. We had one exit so far.
Which was that?
Which was the Dia. I don't know if you know them. They sold to Philips.
Terrific.
Yes.
So you're like Y Combinator, but without Paul Graham taking your equity.
But
for Israeli companies too.
That's just one of our programs.
And so what's some of the other programs?
101. That's SB 101. That's we don't take their equity. We have a program focusing on women in tech in the U.S. We have a few programs around specific verticals. One in cybersecurity. Now we're starting one in fintech. We do a series of dinners between investors and founders, and so on and so on. Tons of opportunities.
And why was this needed? You started what now?
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
We're just celebrating we're open for ideas on how to celebrate our 10th birthday.
I don't know if you remember this, by the way, but you could do like a best of show. I interviewed Sam Altman on your stage at your third conference.
We need to bring him back.
Yeah, before Sam was like a thing. I interviewed him. I think he was just at Y Combinator.
He was a thing. He was
always a thing. Yeah. He wasn't asking for like $1 trillion for training AI models, but I think I interviewed him. I think I asked him a question of what was more dangerous, nuclear weapons or Donald Trump at the time, because he was really in the anti-Trump camp. And I can't remember what his answer was.
I'm going to dig it and find it.
Yeah, go see if we can find it. That's my recollection.
Yeah.
So why did you start Icon?
I think we wanted, so many times people ask me, did you have the vision on what Icon is going to be when you started it? And the answer is no. I mean, and I think that's comforting for many people that start something and don't have a vision. It doesn't mean you can't do it. What we did do is that we were attuned to opportunities. And if an opportunity came, we took that. And if somebody closed the door, we came in through the window. So we were very entrepreneurial, I guess, in the way we developed this nonprofit. But it wasn't like, this is my vision on what we're going to be in 10 years, and this is how we got to it. We started actually by trying to solve the problem of Israelis in Silicon Valley not involved enough in community life with the Jewish community. That was the problem we were trying to solve. And we thought, okay, let's do something at the JCC, and then Israelis in Silicon Valley do tech, and we'll do something, a conference about tech, and then they're going to come and they're going to see the JCC and they will want to be part of this. And then as I started working on this event, I first understood how connected this community is. Second, I understood that Israeli tech is a pretty hot commodity because everyone, even if you're not Jewish and you're not Israeli, you want to know what's going on in tech. It's not enough to just know what's going on in the U.S. You want to know what's going on in Israel. So everybody wanted to know what's going on and be part of that. And I realized there's so much goodwill that's been created and poured into this conference that we should do something with it. And the first thing we did is change the name of the event from a conference to a launch event. No idea what I'm launching. Honestly, no idea what I'm launching. And then slowly, step by step, we added one thing, we added another thing, something didn't work. We decided not to do that and move forward. So that has been Icon. I love that I'm on the intersection of tech and innovation, and at the same time community work and impact, specifically when it all ties back to Israel. And I love also the fact that we have kind of this business model that supports a nonprofit. I think, I hope many nonprofits get that.
But we're going to talk more about this kind of circle in the nonprofit activity. But if you had to compare and contrast the Israeli tech ecosystem with the Silicon Valley tech ecosystem, what would you point to? As
an ecosystem, I think, one thing is obvious. If you want to sell only here, you're not venture worthy. The market here is not big enough. Versus in the U.S., you can sell to the local market and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing success. So startups here always are with an eye for fundraising or for customers in the U.S., and that's pretty obvious. Having said that, we're a little bit in a disadvantage because you do business with people. And growing up here, I'm not sure you understand all the cultural subtleties, and you don't know someone. So my kids went to school, and like all the parents of the kids in the preschool were like CEO of this company and that company, and we just socially knew each other. And I'm thinking, like, here I can probably get to people because I know them from the army, I know them from the kids' activities, I know them because they went to school with me. And then if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm coming to the US, I don't have this breadth and depth of connections. So that's another difference.
What are the core differences between Israeli entrepreneurs and Silicon Valley entrepreneurs?
I think I don't work with Silicon Valley entrepreneurs.
But you know a lot.
Yeah.
You met a lot through Icon.
I think when you say that, you expect me to like talk about the stereotype or the chutzpah.
No. I have no expectations, and I know you always have different answers, so I ask you.
I think the Israeli entrepreneurs are awesome. I think they do the work and they learn about the differences, and they understand just things that worked here are not necessarily going to work there, and they want to know maybe even the difference on how you dress to a meeting, on what's okay and what's not okay to ask. They work on their accent. If there's like a word, I remember one of the founders that spoke on stage, and when he introduced the team, he wanted to say, "We're just a bunch of hackers," based on their military hacking experience. It's a cool sentence to add, but with this very deep Israeli accent, it came out as, I don't know if I can say it on the podcast, we're just a bunch of fuckers. That's what it came really. So they're very, I think they're very much aware of all those differences. I love working with Israeli entrepreneurs. I think someone in the US someone told me, I like that because I'm being stabbed in the front and not in the back. What do you think about it?
What are some of the other feedback you got on Israeli entrepreneurs?
I mean, there's the joke that, an entrepreneur comes out of a meeting and he said they suggested, they thought it's interesting. If you're there, I thought it's interesting. It doesn't mean that I'm interested. We never go, let's do lunch. That does not mean we want to do lunch together. If I open my calendar and says, let's do lunch, I can do next Thursday, then I want to do lunch with you. But let's do lunch one day. It's just like, bye. So those are cultural differences. There's like, I came out of a board meeting and the board said, I should be looking at so-and-so. Well, I thought about it and I don't think I should do that. Well, that was not a recommendation. That was something you should do. Do you see a difference in aspiration between the Silicon Valley founders and the Israeli founders? I don't work enough with the Silicon Valley founders to say that, but I gotta say, the Israeli entrepreneurs are awesome. They have big dreams. They used to say that everybody wants to build a company until they can sell it. But now I also see entrepreneurs, they dream of creating a huge company and going public. So, no, I think the Israeli entrepreneurs are inspiring, aspiring, full of fire and ready to rule the world. Maybe I shouldn't say ready to rule the world. It's so like feeling anti-Semitic stuff. Yeah, well, we're ready to succeed and spread the amazing things we create here and help everyone. I know you for a decade plus. I've never heard you hide what you think ever once, which is good. So just to follow up on that, so it's been like a complex year for Israeli tech. Started with the judicial reform here, and now the war. Have you seen any changes in your Silicon Valley network as it relates to your less investing? We've raised tons of money for our portfolio since the war started. Almost a couple $100 million at this point. So I think a venture capital is a business, and part of your business model is that you have to make a set amount of investments per year. No, I never do that. Only if I find good opportunity. So you can go on and not invest like for 3 years? 3 years, my LPs might get antsy. Okay, but it is based on the assumption that you are going to consistently invest. Maybe it's not 3 and 3 and 3 and 3, but you have to keep on looking for opportunities. I think, what I see actually investors that are more eager, that see what's going on and understand that it's more challenging now for Israeli entrepreneurs, and send me anyone who's even, let me see anyone. So I do see that. I haven't seen anyone who's like, I don't want to invest in Israel now. But I think we have to also acknowledge that this is part of not just a crisis in Israel. There's a slowdown in tech that's been going on for a while. Yeah, I agree with that. All over the world. So Many times I was asked, are we being penalized because of the judicial reform? And it was really hard to tell. Are things happening because of the judicial reform, or are they happening because of they're happening anyway all over the world?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I've said that to the Treasury Ministry over and over again. I've written it publicly. I think it's very difficult to tease out the causes of the downturn. And by the way, my sniff test is a lot of it has to do with the investment in base AI models in Silicon Valley that didn't exist here or basically anywhere besides Silicon Valley in France, as best I could tell, and maybe Abu Dhabi. I want to dig into something else. So you kept coming back to ICON and the nonprofit and community and purpose. What is Code for Israel?
Code for Israel is another nonprofit we created 3 years ago, and the thought there was that we have amazing talent in the tech community, and they want to do things for the community. And we end up sending them distributing food for the needy or painting a preschool, which are great things. But wouldn't we be getting so much more of their time if we let them do what they do best, which is write code? At the same time, we have many nonprofits in our world in Israel that target core issues in the Israeli society. And it's like, I don't know if you say in English, the shoemakers going bare feet. What's the English equivalent?
The cobbler's kids have no shoes.
That's the one, the shoemaker, yeah. And we create amazing technology that touches so many people around the world, and yet our own nonprofits are not as tech advanced as they could have been. So what Code for Israel does is that creates those collaboration. We bring volunteers from the tech world, and they either implement or develop specific tech that helps those nonprofits do their work in a more efficient and productive way.
Give us an example of a project.
So one of them that's very relevant recently, there's the Tnu'a Lemigur Antisemiut Bareshet.
Yeah, which is the movement to combat anti-Semitism
online.
On the internet.
I don't know what's the specific of their name in English, but so before we help them, they have volunteers that scan YouTube, Facebook, any of those. When they find an anti-Semitic expression, they file a form and they request that it will be removed. We created a tool for them in which they can do it automatically. And now they doubled their tempo by 10. So instead of 7 expressions an hour, they can tackle 70 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Give us another example.
Hashomer Chadash.
Yeah.
Hashomer Chadash, which I know you know pretty well.
For full disclosure, I chair that organization. But go ahead.
I love that organization. I love Yoel. I love what you guys do. It's like the true, great Zionism, really chalutz.
Pioneering.
Yes, really pioneering in this field. And you tackle many issues, but the one that we got, so what we like to do is work with the nonprofit and ask them for the problem, not the solution. What is the problem that you have? And the problem that Yoel introduced is that we're trying to help the farmers when there's a theft, agricultural theft, but the volunteers don't get to the right place at the right time fast enough. What we did is developed sensors. So we didn't develop sensors. We took various sensors and changed them so that they can tell if it's a cow that walks or a car, because we want to know when a car walks in. The next stage would be that it can read the number of the car and say if this is the car of the farmer or another car. And they don't need to be, they're weather resistant, and you don't need to change batteries often. And they're just placed in strategic locations on the field. And the volunteers get notified and just get to the right place at the right time.
And on the cows or the sheep.
And the cows. I love the cows. So another one was, I call it a GPS for cows. So basically, when we came to talk with the farmers about this thing that we created for them to prevent the cars from coming in, we understood that there's another problem with the cows. Now, I actually did not know that cows go out to the field and come back 6 months later. I thought they go, they eat, they come back. Like, I don't know, you go out, you come back, you go out, you come back. So I was, maybe I'm naive and I'm not a farmer, but they don't come back as often. And what happens is that people, bad people, come and they lead the cow and take it somewhere else, or they just slaughter the cow in the field, chop it to pieces, put it in the car and drive away. And the farmer knows about it just 6 months later when they come to count the cows. So what we did is we created this GPS for cows and like a little cute belt that goes around the cow's neck. And if the cows is out of the designated area, being walked away, or the cow stops breathing, again, the volunteers get a notification.
So, like, you get totally animated talking about code for Israel. You got totally animated talking about icon.
I've been there. We checked it. I saw it when we checked it on the car. We got one of the volunteers to hold it and run away, and we saw how you can see it on the screen. It was pretty. It was fun.
Like, you could have done anything. You could have gone in a family business. You could have invested in these startups that you met in Silicon Valley. You had easy access to them. Someone probably would have hired you as an executive at some point. Why did you choose to do what you're doing? Give us the why.
So one, I do invest in startups. I don't make it my core business like you do. But I do, if I meet someone that's exceptional or extraordinary in my mind, I dig a little deeper and I do invest. I have some good examples, some good
Tell us about your portfolio.
Some good investments. I invested in Navan in Trip Actions early on when he had a $10 million valuation. I invested in Salt Security, which I'm sure you know. But I don't want to do that full time. I really enjoy. It goes back to what makes you happy. Being impactful. Helping my community, creating this community. This is actually what makes me happy. So it's pretty selfish. I want to be happy. I do community work because it makes me happy.
There must have been pull to go into a family business. There must have been.
So I spent 4 years working with my stepfather after I graduated from Stanford Business School. I enjoyed it, but I enjoy this more.
No disrespect to your stepfather, but you're making a lot of impact doing what you're doing.
And he did too.
He did too?
He did too.
When you get out of bed every morning, you say to yourself, today I'm changing X. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Today I'm changing X. Well, it's not like an every morning thing that I wake up.
I think you do.
I got to say, I had this really interesting talk. So my youngest son is 10. And 10 years old, they'll do anything before bedtime to postpone bedtime.
Never noticed that one.
Never. So he saw that I like talking to him, and he dives into in-depth, really deep conversations. And 2 weeks ago, we had this conversation when he said, between the war, COVID, and moving to Israel, my childhood is pretty much fucked up. I was like, really? He said, yes, there are things that need to change here. I was like, okay, what needs to change here? He said, really? He said, yeah, what needs to change in Israel? And he kind of had 10 things he wants to change. And I was actually shocked that I think the top 4 were about the environment. He said, I want more green. I want this. I want less pollution. I want the weather. And then it was personal safety, especially with the war going on. And then it was the education system because he goes to school. This is his life. But if you would have asked me, I don't know if it's a different generation or there are things that bother me more than the environment in Israel right now. So if it's education, then I think, there's great things. I mean, we're a child of I don't know if you, did you go to school here? I'm a child of the Israeli education system, and I'm pretty happy with myself. So
you did well.
I did okay.
I often say that the informal education system here is better than the formal education system here. The formal education system here used to be better, but the informal education system around the youth movements, around just what you pick up from Friends of the Street and the Army in particular, is just...
And the Mechinot also.
The Mechinot also, right, which is these Army preparatory programs are incredibly valuable, and they create resilience in kids that are, people in Silicon Valley will excuse me, are less created in high school in Silicon Valley.
I think that, what happens here, just going to the Army, seeing your friends in danger, but it creates resilience. Going to the shelter when there's an alarm, it creates resilience. There's no, we don't really have a choice.
Uncertainty is empowering.
Yes, and it helps you deal with uncertainty that there's always going to be in life.
Are you good at dealing with uncertainty?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, I'm good with pressure. I actually thrive in stressful situations.
Yeah, how do you do that?
I don't know. How do I do that? When we did Dancing with the Stars, my partner is like, he was the complete opposite of me. He said, no, let's relax. I was like, no, I need the pressure. He says, you don't need to be pressured. I was like, I need to be pressured. I do better when I'm pressured. I don't know why. This is a therapy session.
Do your kids like that you get under pressure like that?
No, I'm not stressed by it.
You're not at all, right?
I'm not stressed by it, but I like...
Use it to motivate you. Use it to focus.
I like that there are many things that...
I also like that for what it's worth. I think it's an interesting phenomenon, people who know how to channel pressure and stress versus those that get
to motivation.
Yeah, to motivation
Yeah, it
versus
doesn't
those that
stop
get
me.
stopped by it.
It doesn't stop me. It fuels me.
Yeah, Dan Loeb of Third Point once said, he sent me a book, which I didn't read, embarrassingly, about I think a woman psychologist who says that stress can actually be the biggest performance enhancer, much more than caffeine or steroids or anything else that people take, if you know how to channel it.
Yeah, and if you enjoy it, you don't want to be stressed and be miserable. And I enjoy it.
So,
if we go back to your first question, that kind of led us to this, and there are many things that I think could be better, and we need to take care of all of them.
So you said early, passion Israel. You spent all this time in the U.S. Tell us about how you think about your identity. Are you, Israeli, Jew, Jewish, American? Like,
I'm all of the above.
Can't be all of the above.
Why not?
All right, tell us how.
I'm Israeli, I'm Jewish, and I'm American. So,
and how does that fit into your identity?
How does that fit into my identity? I feel, that I belong in both places. Could have been that you don't belong in both places, which is kind of bad. So actually, I don't know. You feel. What do you feel? Are you more Jewish than Israeli? Are you more American than Israeli?
No, I'm more Israeli at this point, I think, than most, but I'm culturally probably, because of my upbringing, if you ask my kids, they would tell you that I am American. In my own head, living here 30 years, I have become more Israeli, but I understand American cultural norms. I think the values that I've adopted are more Israeli.
So I think if I had to choose if I'm more Israeli or more American, I'm 100% more Israeli. Not 100% Israeli, but there are some, after spending 18 years there and doing business there, lots of me is American. I really value the relationship between Israel and the U.S. If there's one thing that, we spoke about things that bother us and need to be changed, I think we should do a lot more to work on this relationship and not just take it for granted.
Agreed.
When I'm both Israeli and Jewish.
So you and I actually were side by side in a column. I don't remember how long it was before the war.
Yeah.
About the future of this relationship, the U.S.-Israeli relationship, and anti-Semitism in particular. A lot's changed since October 7th. How do you think about the problem of anti-Semitism right now?
I was I feel I was naive. I felt there is anti-Semitism, but I didn't think it's so spread and broad. I thought it's like crazy people that are like at the edges of society that feel that. And I'm shocked to see how prevalent it is. And it made me think about all the people that I've done business with and I met. What happens when they go home and they talk to their spouse? Do they say, oh, this Jew came over today and she said so and so? It's really bothering. I think in universities, it's worse than anywhere else. And
would you send one of your kids to an American university today? They may not ask you, but
one, I want them here.
Yeah.
I want them close to me. I want my kids close to me. I'll support my kids in whatever they do, but it's a very challenge. It's tough and it's challenging. I also don't think that not going to U.S. universities is the solution.
I agree with that.
We have to be, it's like when something goes wrong, running away is not going to solve it. We have to be there. And if my kids were in an American school now, I would encourage them to step up and to speak and to be an activist and do things to explain to their friends what is going on. So
specifically, what would you tell them to do?
We created the community in around Stanford created this like initiative, Blue and White Tent, in Stanford, where you can come and people can ask questions and share knowledge, and there are talks. And I sat there and came along, some people came and said, oh, great job, keep on doing this. And I said, why won't you come and sit with us? Come and, take a shift and answer questions and talk to the students. And one 19-year-old told me it's a social suicide. That made me really sad. That's a kid that I've known. He's a friend of one of my kids, and I've known him since preschool. And he said, it's a social suicide, and it's sad that this is the way it is. So, yeah.
So do you worry in that case today more about anti-Semitism or assimilation?
Anti-Semitism.
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 Aditya Tarko, I asked, what should I ask you? And the first thing she said I should ask you is, October 7th changed your perspective? So it sounds like on the issue of anti-Semitism, it changed your perspective massively.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also changed, I think another change is that, I don't know if it's perspective or real change. I think that North America Jewish community understood that even if they disagree with us, we're in the same bad situation and we're together. So I think in one way, it did create an opportunity with the relationship with the Jewish communities in North America, understanding that this is both our problems. So
Adi asked me to follow up and ask you, with all the social impact initiatives that you have, do you have other desires or to influence from within? I think she means from within the political system, or do you want to nibble around from? I don't mean to say nibble. You want to have the continued impact from outside the system doing the nonprofit work. You're like a real bridge in many, many ways.
I think that what I care about is creating a positive impact and change in Israel. What is the best way for me to do it? Is it from within or from the outside? I'm still not sure, but I'm exploring every option.
That's a very political answer. You might be ready for this.
I don't know. What would you think? What do you think? Where could you bring the most impact? If you really want to create change and make this a better place, where could you make the most impact?
Like you, I'm a big believer in civilian movements. I think the operating system for the world has changed. The government operating system is still the Pony Express and maybe Windows 95, and our operating system is WhatsApp and the iPhone and AI right now. And so ironically, I think we're in this tension moment here between the speed of the civic operating system and the slow speed of the government operating system. And I think civilian initiatives can outrun the government right now.
But maybe the solution is we go and we fix that.
Could be. My own view is the government needs to slim down and become an orchestrator rather than a manager, and should orchestrate civilian movements. You mentioned before the Shomer HaChadash. We're doing a much better job than the government of helping farmers, not just with protection, but, many of the farm workers ran away after October 7th, and Shomer HaChadash ships 25,000, 30,000 volunteers a month to go help the farmers pick their crops, plant their crops, etc. It's something the government has not gotten organized about, And so I'd like to see civilian movements scale up and to change the interface between civilian movements and government. And I think that's true here. I think it's true in the U.S. as well. I think part of what you see going on in the U.S. is a need. The federal government's trying to grab more power, and the states are saying, no. They understand the power needs to be distributed more. And I think I side with the states very significantly in this way. I think Thomas Jefferson would have said the same thing, and the founding fathers would have said the same thing. And so I'm a states' rights guy because I just think they get elected by the local people, and that's a better outcome for the most part.
I think that one thing that I did learn after that strengthened kind of this point after October 7th, that I realized the importance of not just the civil movements, the business people for the country. I noticed that we have a consul in San Francisco. They've been there just for 5 years the most. They can't have the depth of the connections that business people or community leaders have within a community. So kind of they came to us, make an introduction for me in YouTube, make an introduction for me in TikTok, make an introduction for me there. And many good people, obviously everybody did whatever they can to bring the business people here. And you saw the visits here that, people that kept on coming, and other behind the scenes meetings with business people there. So yeah, I agree with you that the government, we do have to fix things and make it more efficient, but still you can't have the breadth of the entire business community of that. So you need to work together.
So you're part of the business community and nonprofit community. What's a message you want to say here to Silicon Valley CEOs and entrepreneurs?
This is a good place. Israel is a great country with could really be heaven. So I would say just help us go beyond the slogans, really see what the people are. See the fact that we're strong doesn't mean that we are the occupier or the oppressor. And the situation has to change. There's so much hate for nothing in the U.S. It has to change.
And what would you tell an investor right now?
This is the time. So it's really funny, but even from a pure business perspective, when do you want to invest? Do you want to invest when everybody's a unicorn? No, you want to invest when the missiles hit Tel Aviv. Valuations, just from a pure business perspective, this is, and it's funny because many investors feel differently. I guess many want to invest more when they keep on reading about this unicorn and that unicorn. This is not a good time to invest. It's a good time to invest when the valuations are low. So the technology will keep on growing. I think there's a lot of actually technological innovation that will come out of the situation. A lot of things that will start being developed in the military and then will trickle to the tech society. So there are plenty of opportunities ahead.
We agree. We think there's been science fiction created over the last 5 or 6 months in the military, and we're seeing incredible deal flow right now. I'll tell you a funny story. When I first got started in my career, I went to see a well-known British stockbroker named Edward Cohn as part of my kind of tour to find 10 people who give me 10 minutes of advice. So I go to see Edward Cohn, who's living in Jerusalem at the time. He just passed away, unfortunately, a couple of months ago. And I said to him, Edward, what's the one piece of advice you would give me? And he said, buy low, sell high. I said, Edward, come on, man. And he looked at me and says, oh, if it's so easy, why does everyone do the opposite? And I sat there and said, wow, there's real wisdom in that. Everybody wants the unicorn. Everyone wants to follow the herd. Few people are able to kind of get up the gumption to invest when the missiles are falling on Tel Aviv. And it was like a moment for me. I was 24, 25. It was like a moment. Buy low, sell high. It's not what you thought it was. It's not just a bumper sticker or a slogan. It's hard. It's really hard against human psychology. Why did you do Shark Tank? Is that even real?
Of course it's real. We invest our money. So when we say yes in the show, that means that we're going to start a due diligence process. And if the due diligence process is successful, then there's going to be a deal. I think the average in the U.S. is that about half the deals happen and half the deals don't. I don't know here in Israel.
How many did you do?
Probably about half.
About half?
About half of the deals.
Did any of them work out?
Annabella, the breastfeeding pump, actually, we just launched in the U.S. So they developed a new actually patent even. Think about the breast pumps. It's always being about vacuum.
Yeah.
And they developed a mechanism. What we always tell entrepreneurs, what is your problem? Did you experience the problem? So his wife came to him and Masha came to Senya and she said, I don't like the pumps. Can you do something about it? I just don't like them. And they worked a mechanism that imitates the movement of a tongue of a baby. And turns out in research that produces double the amount of milk at the same time or same amount to half the time. So that's a pretty strong claim.
Yeah.
Being proved in research. 6 months ago, we started selling it here in Israel. And now we did a soft launch in the U.S., just on our website to make sure we can do that. So that's been pretty awesome. So I went to Shark Tank. To speak, to see that, can I take all the knowledge, everything that I saw in Silicon Valley and pass it, not to the people that come to the show, but the people that stay at home and watch the show.
What was the feedback like from the kind of people who stay at home and watch the show? Did you get hate mail, fan mail, feedback?
I mostly what I wanted is to people to open the drawer, take their dream, look at it, air it and said, okay, I have a few tools now and I know what investors think and I know what I need to do and maybe I'm going to look at it differently in my idea and maybe I can try and I fail or I'm not going to fail. I don't know, but I'll give it a try. And I get many people to tell me they've done that. I get mostly women that approach me in the street. I don't know if the men are afraid to approach or women are more inspired by what I have to say because I'm a woman. But they come and say, I have this idea and I'm going to now start looking at it and figure out how to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so why'd you do Dancing with the Stars?
It's a dream. I don't know. I'm a little sparkle pony inside.
Were you a dancer as a kid?
I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but I think I stopped when I was 11. I think, put the glitter aside and the dresses and the learning a new thing, I think for me it was stepping out of my comfort zone in a very big step, in a cha-cha step. And trying to see how I deal with that. I actually like it for life. I like trying things that are not comfortable and seeing how it feels. And then if it feels good, your comfort zone's bigger. I used to be afraid talking in public. And then I tried and I spoke with 20 people and then I spoke with 100 people. And then I remember the first time I was in the IC conference and I went on stage in front of 4,000 people. And I was like, but I've done it. And
this is, by the way, an incredibly important point, right? Which is that you force yourself out of your comfort zone in many different ways in order to get comfortable with it. And eventually you got comfortable with it and your impact and range expanded.
Yes. And I recommend, think about, don't go over the top. Don't go something like crazy. But think about something small, like a small step outside of your comfort zone. and then see how it feels. And either you can always walk back.
See, you're the psychologist in this conversation.
What is your step out of your comfort zone, Michael?
I'm doing this, right?
This is outside your comfort zone?
I don't know. No, I've spoken publicly since I was like, my grandparents were like honored at some dinner when I was, I don't remember, 10 or 11, and I spoke. So I've spoken publicly for a long time. What's out of my comfort zone? It's a good question. I have to go think about that right now.
Well,
okay.
I wish you find something out of your comfort zone and try it.
I'm definitely not going to do cha-cha dancing on television. What do your kids think about you being on television?
They like it.
They do?
They like it. Actually,
Why?
My daughter forced me to go on Shark Tank when I wasn't sure if I want to go or not. She said, "Oh, you have to do it."
Were they critical? Mom, you got this wrong.
No, they're pretty supportive. No.
Yeah? Was your mom, like, my mom gives me feedback. My mom is like a speaking coach.
Yeah.
And she gives me feedback on every TV interview I do that, watch your legs, watch your hands, stand up. Your mom give you feedback?
Not on the
She's not a blushing violet, your mom. I know her.
Never. She's a mom. She's always like a supporter. And she came actually to one of the Dancing with the Stars shows. She came to visit me on the Shark Tank set. And I loved it. It was like having even though I'm 50, it was like having your mom come and see you at the chug, at the after school activity. And
like you were a ballerina when you were 11.
Exactly. I don't know if she came when I was 11, but she came to Dancing with the Stars. If she has comments, it's like, put your hair in the front, smile more. Why aren't you smiling? This is a good lipstick. So, but she's
fashion comments.
She's a big. She's a big fan. It's if I want criticism, no, it's not.
That's not it, huh?
Yeah.
So, 2 last questions for you. What makes you human and vulnerable?
I think someone asked me once, there was like a big conference. Are you excited? I was like, no. Are you excited? No. Are you excited? No. And I think I'll get excited from the small things that they work. I could get excited from a flower I see on the way, from like something the kids do, from the small things. What makes me human? Why would you suspect I'm not?
I know you are. But like, what are those things that kind of bring out your vulnerability, your more sappy side?
Sappy? What is sappy? What does that mean?
Oh my gosh. Sappy is like emotional, sentimental.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a hopeless romantic.
Okay.
This is one. I am hopeless romantic. I founded a cult for hopeless romantics. Not really. But I do.
That sounds interesting.
We have one convert that actually, never mind. I'm a true believer in love and hopeless romantic, and things will eventually work out if there's big love. I think babies, for some reason, my team thinks it's weird. I'm crazy about babies, but other people's babies.
I like babies too. I'm a big fan.
You're a grandpa.
It's true.
Yeah, you get that. I have some time to go until I'm a grandpa.
We can give your kids some encouraging. You'll never be a grandpa, but you can be a grandma if you want.
I have a few years to go. My Shia is 23, almost 20. I can wait a few more years.
I was a father at 22.
No, it's not going to happen.
All right.
A few more
years. We can go talk to her when she's finished trekking Cambodia. How do you want to be remembered at the end of your life?
Interesting. So when I was in Stanford Business School, in one of our classes, we were tasked with writing a eulogy for ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a heavy assignment.
It's actually interesting because it is exactly what you're asking. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? I guess it depends by whom. I want to be remembered by someone who touched people. I want to remember by my kids. Someone who was impactful in their life that allowed them to be great people that they are. I want to be remembered someone who did something great for this country. I want to be remembered by the entrepreneurs I worked with, someone who facilitated their professional growth and investments or whatever. So you want to be remembered. I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not suggesting you are.
Yeah.
This is 70 years from now.
So I don't know.
Right, like we say, until 120.
I wrote in my eulogy, the one that I wrote, actually it was a pretty awesome, the professor at the end analyzed it in the class level. So she said, we have 5 people that will end up being U.S. presidents sitting among us. But the most interesting thing is that 4 of you married Natalie Portman. Yeah, I think one of the things that I wrote is that I worked with my daughter. At the time when I wrote this, she was 4, and I didn't have the younger ones, or just one that was a baby. But at that time, it seemed like something that was combining kind of worlds.
A mother-daughter business.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're very different now in our career paths. She's very artistic, and she's going a different way than I have. Not in values, but in what she chooses to do. I want to spend a lot of time with my kids.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yasmin, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me,
fun.
Michael. It was.